Hello. Today we're going to look at some experiments rather than surveys or observational studies. Before we get into that, we have to know some words associated with it. The first ones are units, subjects, and treatments. So the thing that you're going to do the experiment on is we call them experimental units. But if those happen to be human beings, we call them subjects. The thing that we are applying to them we call a treatment. So the thing that we're changing um, from subject to subject, and we're measuring, uh, and we want to measure something out of it. So maybe the treatment is a lot of light or no light for a particular experiment. And we need to pay attention to what that our explanatory and our response variables are clear. Because those are our explanatory variables, and our response variable might be the height of the plant. And so we need to make sure we're clear about what these are. Um, Now, an advertising company ran an experiment to see people's responses to a commercial given two factors, length and repetition. So this is a word that we hear, factors. They're two different things that they're modifying in an experiment. Now, there's another word here, levels. How many levels of length? Well, length is here. They have the 30-second video or the 90-second video. So we say there are two levels of length. For repetitions, it looks like it goes anywhere between 1, 3, and 5 times. So there are 3 levels of repetitions. So if I ask how many treatments there are, well, people can be placed in any of these categories. So there are 6 different treatments that they're going to compare to see what people like better. Now, when looking at an experiment, there are some things that we need. It's good to have a control, something to compare the people to. We want to randomly allocate people to each treatment. And then we want to use enough people. We want to replicate the study enough times in order to in order to see some validity in the experiment. And we'll talk more about each of those. The first one we're going to talk about is control. Now, the control group is a comparison of several treatments in the same environment. So we can see if you're just modifying one thing, we can see that that one thing is the thing that's causing uh, the response that we're measuring. Now, the control group is the group that doesn't get the treatment. So if I was applying a new glue to adhesive to the bottom of my shoes, so some people would get the new glue and some people would have the old glue, and the people who had the old glue adhesive would be called the control group because they have the shoes that are just normal from before. This is the treatment group because they have a new glue that they're trying to measure. Now don't confuse control, which is comparing several treatments in the same environment, with the control group. The group is just this group of people. Now, medical experiments uh, haven't always been tested with the best of statistical design, and they're trying now to test them more and more, and they're seeing a lot of things come out that aren't what they expected. There's this type of procedure called the gastric freezing, where the patient swallows a deflated balloon with tubes attached, and the refrigerated liquid is pumped into the balloon for an hour. This idea uh, of cooling the stomach will reduce the production of acid and so relieve the ulcers. The experiment showed uh, that gastric freezing did reduce acid production and it relieved ulcer pain. So people did this surgery and they're like, well, it works. Everybody's happy. Wonderful. There was one problem with the study. The study did not have a placebo. So they they just did the surgery and pumped this fluid in, and the people felt better afterwards. Um, and whenever you're running a study like this, you have to do a placebo effect because there are many variables that aren't being controlled. And so what we would do is we would hook people up, and you do everything the same, but some people just don't get the um, the gastric freezing pumped into the stomach. And they found that 34% percent of the patients with the actual treatment improved, and that compared to 38% of the people in the placebo group. So many people improved even though they didn't actually pump that freezing liquid into the stomach. So they realized that they were doing this whole surgery, uh, and the thing that they thought was changing things wasn't. Um, and this is happening in many, many studies. I read one on knee surgery where they thought removing some part of the knee was actually improving it, and it turned out that they were wrong for many years. Now, in order for a study to be valid, um, we need to replicate it. Now, replication is assigning a large number to each group or level to minimize the variability. So you don't want to do the study on 4 people or 10 people. You want the number to be high enough that you can be comfortable with the results. Also, people talk about replication because many times somebody does a study with 30 people and they get a result and it has some significant impact, but then nobody checks to see if it's actually true. And so there's a famous psychology experiment that just got overturned, and they realized that only one person ran it once, and then they went back and started replicating some of these experiments, and they found out that their results were actually wrong. Randomization. So when you have your 2 groups, your control group and your treatment group, people need to be randomized into those groups. Now, um, this is different from our SRS because the subjects don't have to come from a, a random group. But random allocation means we take all of these people and it's like we kind of do an SRS with just the subjects. We number all the subjects and then we pick half of them to go here and half of them to go here. And it doesn't always have to be 50-50, but we have to figure out some method for them to go to control and treatment, and then when we're done, we want to compare at the end. But it is very important that they are randomized as they go from the subjects to the control and treatment. All right, that's the end.